Welcome to the Wayne County Community Corrections Advisory Board meeting. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Chief Judge Pro Tem Larry Williams. Pastor Eddie Williams has requested to be excused.
No, he's right here.
Here.
Sorry. Okay, Commander Constance Slappy. Ms. Schaumburger.
Present.
Janella Robinson.
Present.
Norris Howard.
Present.
Armand Harris.
Present.
Judge Prentice Edwards. Chief Robert Dunlap.
Present.
Sam Chirikian.
And I'm here.
All right. Chief Judge Pro Tem David Braxton. Chairwoman Clark Coleman.
Here.
You have a quorum.
So what do we do about the vacant positions? Since we know that Commander Slappy is no longer on here. So we need to move to fill these positions. So who else was it that we have a vacancy anyplace else?
I think you probably just need to reach out to DPD, and I'm sure they will,
Reach out where?
the Detroit Police Department for Commander Slappy.
Okay, so Pam's gonna take care of that, right? Yeah, Pam's gonna take care of her. She has a process whereby they fill those positions. Oh, Commander Slappy, I don't know, but Chief Dunlap said that she retired from the police department, what, a couple of weeks ago?
Right, about 6 months ago.
6 months ago. Wow, okay. Okay. We'll get that item taken care of first. We'll investigate and see what members are still on the board and what members need to be replaced, but we certainly need to get them replaced since we have to have a quorum of 7 members. So, and that's my remarks for today. So can we get an approval? Oh, okay, approval of the minutes of October 29th, 2021.
Madam Chair, I make a motion that the minutes be accepted as printed.
I have a second.
Second.
Been properly moved and second that the minutes of October 29th, 2021 be approved. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Those opposed, the motion carries. Next item, Madam Clerk.
D, unfinished business. There is none listed.
Next item, Madam Clerk.
Item E1 under new business, review and approval of the fiscal year 2023 Michigan Department of Corrections Community Plan and application.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming here in person. I was not aware that we had to meet in person, so I apologize for the Zoom invites and then asking you to come down here. So what I'm going to do right now, this is my first time presenting this material, so I'm going to do my best, but I would like to start by going over the felony dispositions and the prison commitment rate. So we have maintained our prison commitment rate below the state rate. The state rate last year was 16.5%. Wayne County is at 12.1%, so that's good. We also had the prison commitment rate fell to 12% this year from our current rate of 17.4, or from last year's rate of 17.4. So we had about a 5% reduction from last year to this year. Right there on the bottom. Yep. Also, a significant decrease in prison dispositions. We went from around 1,400 to 731, cut in half. Probation violations have also decreased in Wayne County. Probation violators sent to prison was decreased by 3% from 20% to 17% last year. We also noticed when we looked at the non-prison and prison data sets together, there was an 11% increase in the number of non-prison sentences. So that tells us that more people were sentenced to jail versus going to prison, which is also good. The straddle cell rate also fell from nearly 20% in fiscal year 2020 to 18% last year. Straddle cell prison dispositions fell as well from 17% to 10%. So we're doing good in all these areas of dispositions that we rely on and count on. Moving on to the next slide, the key objectives that are aligned with MDOC priorities. We're going to use a 3-year average and reduce overall PCR from 16% to 15%. I worked with Molly with the Michigan Department of Corrections to set that as well. Target population for that objective is sentenced felons, and the programs, which I believe most of you are aware of, I'll go into more of these, that will help us get to that rate are listed below in the slide. So domestic violence treatment, cognitive therapy, the fugitive apprehension unit services, outpatient treatment services, personal assessment growth experience, drug testing, GPS tether services, and we have a new community violence prevention initiative that's hopefully going to be funded this year. A second objective that we're looking at accomplishing here is using another 3-year averages, increase the probation compliance rate by 3%. Obviously, the target population here is pretrial population, and programs include adult fugitive apprehension and GPS tether. Third objective is using another 3-year average, increase the public safety rate by 3%. Pretrial population is our target. Programs that will get us down by 3% will be cognitive behavioral therapy, GPS tether, and our new community violence prevention initiative, which I'm excited to talk about today. Barriers. So I think most of you that have been on this board for the last several years are aware that we had some unexpended funding due to delays with the DWIN agreements. So DWIN is our partner and was actually a partner of ours for a lot of the community-based therapy that we use for community corrections and probationers. We've had significant trouble getting that agreement processed in a timely manner, not only on the county side, but from DWIN. Just they've changed attorneys in the past several years, so they've had a lot of attorneys going in and out of that organization. And that's really impacted our ability to serve a large volume of people, because if the agreement is not processed, we can't send people to for these services, right? So the solution that I talked to the state MDOC about to stop this from happening is to not only RFP a new program, but actually transfer some of the programs such as cognitive behavioral therapy and trauma-informed services for females over to our federally qualified health center. The FQHC, we have 2 of them. We have one in Wayne. We also have one in Hamtramck. They are already the county's partner. We have a cooperative agreement with them. The county is actually responsible for fiscal oversight of this clinic, so that's good. And we won't have these barriers with getting people enrolled into programming with the FQHC. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about that, but I just wanted to put that barrier on the table and let you know some of the changes that we're proposing this year are due to that.
So if you have a question or concern about any of the issues that we're talking about, just put your hands up and we can ask a question of her before she goes all the way through. We know you forget if it goes
Right.
all the way through. So as you move along, if you have a question on any item, just put your hand up, okay?
Go
Do I
ahead,
see a
go
hand
ahead.
up? Pastor Williams.
Could you name those agencies? The two that you're talking about, one in Wayne and one in,
It's Wayne County Healthy Communities. They are Wayne County's federally qualified health centers. Well, they have two locations.
Oh,
So one is in Hamtramck on Joseph Campo, and the other is in this city of Wayne. And that's where our public health department is as well. They have a clinic in there.
Yeah, I wanted to ask some questions about the increases and the decreases that we talked about in terms of commitments to prison, and specifically how this relates to, as we know, with the pandemic, certainly there was decreases in commitments to prisons and jails because the criminal justice system pretty much almost slowed to a halt. But on the other side of that is tether population exploded. And I'm wondering, I was looking through the package and I couldn't find any information about the budget and any proposed adjustments as it relates to tether specifically
Sure.
because we're
Sure.
like almost triple.
Sure, I will answer that. That's actually in my presentation, but I can answer that now.
Okay.
So I pulled some data from Tether, and I realized that we had 300, I think, was the target last year. And we are right now, we have already surpassed 300. And that was like the second week of April, I pulled this data. So I made an adjustment to that number. I bumped it up to 400. However, I'm going to pay very close attention to this throughout the year. I also increased the budget amount for this. I believe it was 200,000 last year. It's 250,000 this year. But again, if we need to make adjustments, we will make adjustments, but we're going to have to look at this monthly to see how far off we are. But I did notice that in 2020, for the whole year, we spent 238,000. And we had a lot of tethers that year. So I think I'm close to where we need to be, but we have already surpassed that 300 that we targeted for this year. So that was not accurate.
Well, I'm glad you're watching it because certainly, prior to the pandemic, our tether population averaged somewhere in the neighborhood of 750, and we're averaging almost 1,600 per day.
Mm-hmm.
And we doubt if it'll ever really go back to 750. So just going forward, we need to keep that in mind.
Okay, that's good to know. I did reach out to someone, and I can't remember her name, but then I just had our community corrections data unit run the invoices and the numbers. So hopefully those are spot on, and we can look at this moving forward. But I think it's something we're going to have to pay close attention to make sure we're not exceeding that.
Could have been Miss Cecile Battle.
oh, I'm sorry.
Pardon?
The person you talked to, Miss Cecile Battle, pull the numbers for you from tether.
No, actually Sam Haddad and his IT individual that actually is responsible for running all the data for community corrections. Hong,
Okay.
his name is Hong.
Okay, all right, I'll talk to you offline because we
Okay,
need to verify it.
okay.
You'll make sure that it's handled the right way. Is that correct?
Yeah, I just want to make sure that, the data pulled from the computer is, cross-matched against the actual data that Ms. Cecile Battle generally pulls for billing. And Ms. Cecile Battle is a part of community corrections.
Yes, yes,
Okay.
yes. She actually is the program monitor. So she's responsible for working with Hong and Sam Haddad to make sure those invoices are accurate.
Question is related to the Wayne County Healthy Communities Program, the new programs that are being proposed. Are those locations apt to be able to assume this new capacity population of probationers?
Yes, I have been told that there is space at both Wayne and the Hamtramck location. They do have a group conference room that's fairly large. And I believe the maximum is 15 individuals for the group. So we should be able to accommodate that.
Else? Okay.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, because I would have kept going and rattling off more data, so.
Okay.
All right, so going back to the DWIN situation, because I do want to expand on this a little bit. So even though DWIN, the agreement wasn't getting processed in a timely manner, we still had people completing their probation sentences, right? They were completing the terms of their probation, whether it's substance use abuse testing or programming, they were still meeting, you know, the probation terms and completing them. So that tells us, and I was talking Janella to Molly about this, that tells us that it's possible that individuals are using their commercial insurance or Medicaid to get these services because they're still being provided. Whether they're being provided by DWIN agencies, we really don't know because I haven't received that data yet. But I wanted to point that out because I think that's important. That, you know, we'd love these people to be funded by MDOC to get the services, but they're getting them anyway. So I just thought that was important to point out.
I just wanted to note, I'm not sure, because based on what you've indicated, we don't have the data that actually shows the numbers that have received the services through DWIN, absent a contract with the department.
We do have the numbers that are from DWIN, but the only agency that is allowing clients to receive services until that agreement is processed is Black Family Development. Until that agreement is processed, we don't have those numbers because we're not enrolling people because we don't have an executed agreement.
So we're still saying, however, that there may be a need. We just don't have the complete data pool to show what that actual need is.
That's correct. That's correct. And we have created, or actually there's remaining programs in here that should be able to fill some of those gaps. All right. So again, the proposed solution, moving on to my next slide, is to move services over to Wayne County Health and Communities. They already have a behavioral health unit in place. They also have their lead behavioral health specialist has provided direct services to offenders for over a decade. So he is comfortable working with offenders. He can relate to offenders. He's worked in the correctional facilities for years. So it's a good match. Again, they're co-applicants for HRSA funding with the county. So we have fiscal oversight over that clinic, which is really important. Questions?
Yeah, how does moving these services over help with the situation with Detroit Wayne?
Sure. So I'm going to explain that. So Wayne County Healthy Communities is going to take over the cognitive behavioral therapy programming, which is part of this application, which used to be in DWIN's hands. Also, they're going to take over the female trauma-informed group services. So they're going to take over 2 group programming services that are laid out in the application that I sent you all.
And so does that mean you will not contract with DWIN or?
Well, we are still going to contract with DWIN because Black Family Development is under DWIN. But Black Family Development, remember, agreed to see clients before the agreement was executed. So I have left Black Family Development in this grant application because they have been great with our clients and they agreed to work with us without that agreement in place. Because they know they know that the payment is coming, yeah. So, you know, they've been great and our clients love them too. But we just wanted to make sure that we have cognitive therapy and female trauma-informed therapy, which is really important, covered by someone. And that was an idea that we had with the department to move those services over. Good question. Okay, so creation of a new initiative this year. So we created something called Healing the Hurt. It's a community violence prevention initiative. As you all know, you probably know Ceasefire, which is called something else in various cities. They changed their names. There's also some other anti-violence groups here in Detroit and Chicago and Philly. They're all over the United States. What we've realized with these community violence prevention programs or diversion programs is that the people that are enrolled in these programs, they have good results and they're producing good health outcomes at the end of these programs. We have realized that the top criminogenic needs here in Wayne County are criminal personality, education and vocation, and social connection. So those are the top 3 needs here in Wayne County of our offender population, and that is what we need to focus on. We believe that this community violence prevention program is going to address all of those needs. For example, if you look at New York City, if you look at the city of Austin, Minneapolis, and Chicago, early data from all 4 of these cities reports a 22% lower rearrest rate, which is a huge difference. In Brooklyn, when they expanded their program to include low-level gun offenses or low-level gun offenders, the homicides dropped to record levels during those years, which is, again, if you're looking at the borough of Brooklyn in New York, that's huge. That's significant progress. At the same time, arrests were reduced by 30% in New York City and shootings were down 7%. So this can be linked to some of these programs. And we think that having a community violence prevention initiative here in Wayne County will really help us out as well. I say that because if you look at the US, weapon offenses accounted for 5% of all prison admissions, but in Wayne County, 17% of all admissions were for weapons offenses. That's huge. That tells me that we need to find a better way to get to the offenders, to treat these offenders and off-ramp them before they get into a bigger mess down the road. And throwing them in jail and throwing them in prison is not the way to do this. And I think we really have to look at the way we're addressing trauma in these individuals. And I believe that this program will do that. As of April 1st of this year, there are 804 carried concealed weapon cases with no other charges involved that are scheduled for pretrial here in Wayne County. Again, 804 CCW cases with no other charges. There are 540 CCW cases in Wayne County that are more than 90 days old and they're backlogged.
So are these persons incarcerated, waiting?
Yeah, the schedule for pretrial. Yes.
They're incarcerated?
Yes. Well, maybe some of them might be on tether.
Go ahead.
You want to address this,
Madam
Chief?
Chair, yeah, it depends on the charge. If it's, just a straight gun case, then I'd say probably most of them are on electronic monitoring tether, awaiting trial. Most of the people that are currently in the jail right now are people who are there for assaultive type crimes and plus. So it could be homicide, sex crime, or something like that.
Yeah, because I was wondering if all the people you're stopping for having a gun illegally, if they were just sitting in the jails right now.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
I'd have to look at the data, but I doubt that we have someone there who's sitting there just for carrying a gun, because a lot of those cases also represent individuals who were walking around with expired CCWs. And so the prosecutors, I know, was looking at a special way to deal with some of those, but without knowing exactly what those numbers are, I can't tell you for sure if they're in the jail or not.
And I know those CCW cases, the 804, there were no other charges involved with those 804, but we wouldn't know unless we looked up each one
Yeah, they're
individually.
probably not in the jail.
Yeah, so looking at this and looking at what other cities are doing and taking the individuals that are most at risk to reoffend, we need to get them into treatment. We need to look at, why are they carrying guns, right? Maybe they just don't feel safe in their communities. Maybe there's so much underlying trauma that they haven't recognized it. We haven't treated it. This program is going to do that. And I think we're going to see a big difference. And I'm really excited to pilot this here in Wayne County, and I hope you all are as well. This new initiative is going to reduce future crime by, again, and I have this in bold and underlined, addressing underlying trauma. We know that up to 90% of the offender population has traumatic histories of loss and maltreatment. Some of those individuals just maybe have never recognized the trauma that they're holding and how that trauma creates triggers for them. And I think we need to, again, address underlying trauma to really get to the population most at risk here. Strengthening a person's support network, that goes to the third criminogenic need here, is social support and mentoring, making sure that these individuals have a mentor, making sure that these individuals have support in their community and become engaged in their communities. We know people that are more engaged with their communities and have support are less likely to commit crime. We know that, the data shows us that. We also need the vendor that we're gonna expedite an RFP for this. We need the vendor to have significant knowledge of all the available community resources. And as you probably all know here in this room, there are a lot of great community-based organizations out there that they have a network, right? So they all network and they know where the resources are. And my hope is that whoever gets this contract for this is really active in the community. And if they don't have the services there in that place, they know where to send people. And they're actually viable referrals and not just go see someone and that phone number doesn't work.
So you're looking for vendors who might have wraparound services
Absolutely.
right there.
Absolutely.
Okay. And
Absolutely.
but also who is invested in the community and active in that community.
Absolutely.
I agree with that.
Absolutely. And they know where to get things. So if they don't have it, they know that Joe on, Michigan Avenue has it. Again, providing comprehensive services linked to positive changes in behavior. We know the evidence points to if you provide a participatory environment to offenders or anyone for that matter, you listen to them, active listening, you treat them with respect and dignity, and you actually provide them with the support that they truly need and actually follow up with these individuals. I think that a lot of the programs that we've had in place in the past, they lack that follow-up that's needed to truly measure the results. And I think that we need to do more of that. So I actually added that in this grant agreement as well, a new component to follow up with clients so we can monitor long-term effects of these programs. So if you just say someone received a certificate and they passed the exam, that really tells me nothing. I want to know what happened to that person. What's that person doing 4 months from then? Does he or she have a job, right? So that's how you really measure success, not just by giving someone a certificate. So I built that in the programs this year. Again, expedited requests for proposals will go out. I'm already in the process of laying this out and going over curriculum to determine what's going to be best for this population. Curriculum will be approved by Mdoc and it will be evidence-based. I really believe that if we start addressing this trauma, that we're going to see the crime go down. Go ahead.
Question. I know that the top 3 criminogenic needs, one of which was vocation and educational training. Will the vendor in the RFP be required to provide direct delivery of services for vocation and educational training?
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct. That is going to be a mandate within this RFP. Again, if you provide people with opportunities, they're less likely to commit crime. And again, that's what this is all about.
Well, they don't necessarily have to have a curriculum right there on their site, but they have to know, say like a school or college that would offer that.
Well, I'm hopeful that the people that will be bidding, submitting proposals for this will have, be able to facilitate this curriculum. That's my hope. that they'll be experienced in the facilitating this curriculum, psychologists, a behavioral health specialists, individuals that are on foot in these communities. They can come in and provide the guest speaking that needs to happen as well. That's how I
So
imagine.
they just need to be able to put it together.
Yes, they need to follow an evidence-based curriculum. Yes. Anyone have questions about that program specifically or anything? Go ahead.
So am I to understand that when you said you were doing follow-up, will it be looking at both criminogenic factors as well as social determinants as well as a measure of success?
Yes. So looking at all health outcomes, socioeconomic health outcomes, physical health outcomes, mental health outcomes, future offenses as well. I think that's something that's been missing, and it's kind of been driving me a little crazy because, well, we gave someone 20 certificates. Okay, well, what happened? Right?
So how far out will the study go? Will it be a year? Will it be 2 years, 3 years?
So they would be intervals. I see it happening in 3, 6, 9 months and a year. Obviously, some people, it's very difficult. Chief Dunlap can speak to this. A lot of the phone numbers that we get from individuals that are housed at the Wayne County Jail, some of those phone numbers are no longer active when we try to contact them, enroll them into services. I imagine that some of the population here too will be like that, but we do have tools to find individuals, and we do our best to do that, but you will see some dropout rate with follow-up services, but we have to try it. Right now, we're not doing that at all, so.
So you said you've already written the RFP.
I started writing some components of it, yes.
When do you expect to really have this for release?
Mid-May.
Mid-May? Okay. And then how long would you wait to get the responses?
So I talked to procurement and I told him our deadline for services to start on 10/1. And they assured me if I had something to him by mid-May that we could have an RFP and a new vendor start by October 1st.
Is this one vendor or several?
It would be one vendor.
One vendor.
I see this being one vendor. Whether they want to have subcontractors in that is up to them.
Okay. But they could have subcontractors.
They could.
Okay, all right, go ahead.
Any other questions? Okay. Some other changes proposed in this grant application for this year is a domestic violence treatment. So as you know, a lot of people in this room probably know, we've seen a significant increase in domestic violence cases over the pandemic. I know in some parts of the country, they're up 40, 50% in their domestic violence incident rates, which is huge. I would like to see perpetrators into these programs. I would like to see them coming in and speaking to the offenders. I think offenders could relate more to an individual that has been through the cycle of violence, has been actively involved in the criminal justice systems due to domestic violence. And I think that is a real motivator for people. And I think that would create some trust between the offender or participant and the agency as well. In Chicago, I spent 8 years working on the front lines of domestic violence in legal advocacy in Cook County's courthouse. And that's what we did. We had perpetrators come in and this was a while ago. So I think we're behind the times here and we should be doing this. So I would like to include that in our domestic violence treatment. Obviously, we do have, for facilitators, you need certain educational background to facilitate these courses. Those will be waived for the perpetrators to come in. I just think it's really important to bring people that are actively involved or were actively involved in the cycle of violence to talk to people. Another thing I want to roll into the domestic violence service component is the victim advocacy component. So actually having an idea of what the victim is going through, right? Because a lot of what the victim is going through, so is the perpetrator, right? So again, it's aligning those two and really producing the results that we need with this. And I think when you put someone in front of a group of 20, perpetrators and that person can't relate to the audience, it's a problem, right? So I really think we have to start bringing in people that can relate more to the population.
So you're talking about actually bringing in the victims,
Yes,
having them be the guest speakers, right?
yes, or a victim advocate. And following the agenda here, I do see some client increases in the following areas: domestic violence treatment, outpatient, drug testing. I see client increases in the fugitive apprehension unit as well, unfortunately. But the data tells me that we're going to see increases there. And also cognitive behavioral therapy, because again, if you go back to the whole DWIN situation, we're not seeing hardly any people. So now we are going to start seeing people. Again, I noted that we're going to closely monitor the GPS utilization. And DV outpatient increased by 25% this year. Drug testing is increased by 10%. The adult fugitive apprehension unit was increased by 40%. We already have surpassed 160 with 5 more months to go in this year, Chief. And it was set at 150, so that's not good enough. So I increased that. I already spoke about the GPS tether. We've already surpassed 300, so that's been bumped up to 400, and I'll pay close attention to that. Moving on to the budget. I don't know if you guys had a chance to look at the budget that I sent you, but I am requesting a total of $2.5 million. The administrative cost is well under the cap set by MDOC. Our administrative rate is 27.899. The cap is 30. We're usually pushing 30 so much where we're trying to move stuff around and find some magic tricks there. So we won't need any this year. We also removed the gatekeeper budget line item per MDOC policy changes. So those individuals that were providing these gatekeeper services, they're still going to be providing services in the jails or through the courts. It's just not going to be under that line item. And they will not be called CDUs anymore. They're correctional specialists. What I see moving forward for community corrections is to focus on quality improvement. Again, looking at the data, analyzing the data. More frequent site visits, I think, is important. I know that the pandemic, created some problems with that, but we have to get back into that and we need to be more regular about it. Program monitoring, close program monitoring to make sure that we're meeting the needs and we're not going over in certain areas. And if we are, we need to look at adjusting. And looking at implementing and completing corrective action plans for vendors that may not be meeting our needs is going to take place next year. Client follow-up component to measure true program impact. Again, I already talked about that, but that is definitely going into place. And again, target our most vulnerable and address underlying trauma. That is the theme. Social support, a focus on social support and client community engagement, where I don't think we have been doing that. So that's another big item this year. Engaging community stakeholders. So letting community stakeholders know about our programs. Letting them know that if they are aware of someone who is at risk or has experienced issues with the criminal justice system, they know where to send them. And I think it's important for everyone to talk about the programs because a lot of people don't know that there's resources out there. So I would like to see a better job of getting out in the communities and letting them know that our programs are here for them. Again, consistent communication with the court and sheriff personnel. I think we need more of that. I think we need more of that because there's going to be changes in our programming this year. And personnel with the sheriff's office and the courthouse, they need to know about these changes so they can better refer clients to these programs. I see cross-training of staff, which really needs to happen because I don't like hearing, hey, where's this? I don't know. You got to ask this person. Well, that everyone should know where everything is. It's a small unit, right? So cross-training people, providing staff education. That means making sure that our staff understand the curriculum that's being taught to these probationers. I think that's really important because if we have correction specialists in the court and the jail, they need to know about the curriculum to actually explain the benefits of these programs to the offenders. So I would like to see that. Extensive knowledge of programming and the benefits of the programs. And again, that knowledge transfer from community corrections staff and even community corrections advisory board members, letting people know, transferring that knowledge to the community and other stakeholders, I think is going to be really helpful moving forward. We all know again that social support is a predictor of risky behavior, and I think we have to flip that switch now. And I think the programs that we laid out in this application will help us do that. And that's all I have. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Chief.
Through the chair, I have questions about, you said the CDU staff is now going to be called correctional specialists?
Yeah, correction specialists in the
Okay.
grant, in the grant.
And so I'm concerned about, you said they were moved to another line item. They are budgeted, correct?
Yes, they are
Can you
budgeted.
tell me how many staff?
We have 7 total staff in community corrections.
And so we're budgeted again for the 7?
Yes, we are. And I'm actually proposing that's 7 with the new person that I'm bringing in. So I have a requisition going to HR for that individual. I'm bringing back someone that was actually laid off. So,
Okay, so, because you do know that they are embedded right now in the jail.
absolutely.
And those services are probably going to pick up in the new jail. And one of the things that we did was we made sure that the design and where we house them, they're actually integrated. And so I just want to confirm that, you know, wherever they're moved in the budget, that they're still there.
Yeah, yes, they will still be providing those services. They just couldn't be under that line item. I don't know, Janella, if you want to explain that, but that's something that the state mandated this year.
Okay.
Yep, Jennifer is
ahead.
correct in that it was just to realign where their positions are defined to make sure that it fits appropriately under our comprehensive plans and what our targeted services are along the lines of pretrial and supervision populations. So they're still there, as Jennifer's indicated. It's just a redesign of their titles, and it gives her ability and flexibility to expand upon their position descriptions. I did have a question about the budget.
Go ahead.
Previously, the cognitive behavioral therapy budget, which we know went unexpended pretty much through the DWIN contract, has been proposed to increase to $403,000. I was wondering if, because that's going to be under the RFP for healing communities, I'm learning the name, I know it's new, but what was the rationale for the increase, seeing that we've had unexpended funds there for the last few years?
And that's for cognitive? Is
Yes.
that what you're speaking of?
Yes.
The rationale for that is now we're not going to have people that cannot access services. So if that answers your question. So before, we couldn't enroll people into cognitive behavioral therapy because it was with DWIN.
Right, and the reason why I'm asking is because the previous amount went unexpended. So why did we go beyond the previous amount that was already approved to increase it beyond that? Was there something that we already know about what we're looking for in the delivery of services and the cost being higher?
Yeah, so the delivery of services at the FQHC, they plan on getting a psychologist involved, which increases the contract amount, as you would imagine. Having just a behavioral health specialist compared to a psychologist. I see a wraparound treatment approach here, using a psychologist, using an outreach specialist for community support, using a behavioral health specialist, and SUD treatment is available there as well. So it's a clinic. So it runs a little different than just a mental health agency. So the cost is a little bit higher than it would have been.
Let me ask you. So the fact that we weren't able to expend the funds last year, are you comfortable that with this, with your new programming here, that we will be, and tell me why?
I am comfortable that we will be, because we won't have to wait on an agreement to be executed before we enroll clients. We can start enrolling clients immediately into these programs. So I see that
We had
as
to
a,
wait from DWIN?
yeah, our DWIN agreement for last year is still not executed. So if that tells you anything, that's,
So so now you're not going to be dealing with him at all?
we're going to be dealing with them with the Black family development, with the substance use outpatient, but that is the only piece.
Any other? Yes, sure. Go ahead.
Thank you for that presentation, Jennifer. Question, currently, how are clients who could take advantage of these programs, how do they know about it now? And then what are ways the advisory board can help spread the word so more clients can take advantage of the services?
Sure, that's a good question. So right now they find out about it through the courthouse, through their probation officers, through jail personnel as well, and through our staff. I think once we get this approved and I actually can release the descriptions of these services to you, I would like, these services to be out there for the public who are eligible for these services. So churches, food pantries, other organizations, community-based organizations that we have vulnerable populations that are frequent in these facilities. So just start talking about, for one, this community violence prevention initiative. If you know someone that's at risk or in trouble with the criminal justice system, letting them know that we have a program available for them would be huge, because I don't know how much community outreach is happening now. I don't think a lot. So I think just getting the word out about these programs is going to be critical.
And I'm especially interested in this domestic violence treatment, because a lot of people suffer quietly and because they don't know where they can go and get help. So I think that we need to do a better job of educating that these services do exist. and where they can go and
Absolutely.
get it.
Question. Just for a point of clarification, based off of the question I was asked about getting the word out to the public and the community about these services, I just wanted to get clarification. So with the new initiative and the domestic violence program, those are specifically targeting those individuals that are under probation supervision, correct?
That's correct. That's
Madam Chair,
correct.
I'd like some clarity. Is there anything being done to educate the bench in terms of making these programs a condition of probation, and what kind of follow-up is going on with that?
Yes. I don't know, Janella, you want to address some of that, but I know that Ebony McCann has addressed the bench in previous years. I plan on, once this gets approved, to direct the staff to get out there again. And because we have new programs, we have new expectations, to let them know the availability of these programs and what the benefits are of these programs. Also, when you start talking about, I was going to call this community violence prevention initiative, a gun diversion program. And then I said, I better not do that, because, some prosecutors' offices might not want anything to do with that. So I changed the name, because I think, it has a stigma attached to it, when you're using the word gun diversion. So I think the bench needs to be aware that, hey, if you have low-level offenders that are at risk for committing future crime, and they're nonviolent crime offenders right now, let's get them enrolled. I think it's really important. I mean, if you look at the backlog of cases too for CCW, that tells you a lot too. Let's send them to treatment. Let's get these guys treated and really on the road to recovery. And instead of having 804, CCW cases, maybe 25 or 30 people can enroll into this program.
Russ, just to add to that, so we do know that Ms. McCann was doing presentations to the bench, especially new judges' presentations that gave a full outline on programs and services that are available under community corrections. She also, prior to the pandemic, would ensure that the contracted vendors went to each of our probation offices and did presentations with the staff to help acclimate them further on the services so that they developed a rapport with the vendors and the providers to also increase utilization. So those are some of the things that we ask would continue moving forward even into the next fiscal year. We know it's panned out a little bit because of, the pandemic and things of that nature, but that is something that would be necessary to increase utilization. I would suggest too that a presentation is conducted on the forefront with the judges on this proposed new program, and with the health clinics. Judge Kenny is always apt to learning about new programs and always on board with that, as well as Judge Prentice Edwards and others. So I think it'll be very important for them to really understand the aspects, the targeted population, the utilization, and the referral process so that everyone can be on board.
Also, that's kind of a mammoth job to get to all of the, and I mean, new judges, but you need to get to the older judges too. I mean, the ones who are already there. And I just see maybe there's a need for facilitators to, and Ebony can't do that by herself.
They do a bench meeting, Commissioner, and I can't remember the frequency of it where they ask the full bench to come and do presentations. We've done that in the past from the probation department where the bench will be present, all judges, new and veteran judges, to be able to give them some insight. They also get a guidebook, which I'm so sure Jennifer has access to, where the guidebooks will give more of a index of services to make it a little bit more accessible and an easier read when they're doing sentencing.
They have these meetings.
I don't know the frequency of them. I haven't attended in a little while. Chief Dunlap.
They at one time were doing a monthly, but I think it kind of went to like every 3 months. And I do believe, I talked to Judge Prentice Edwards last week and he had just had a meeting probably the week prior. So they're pretty regular. Don't know exactly, but I know they've had at least 2 already this year.
I know we have a meeting with some judges coming up about the medication-assisted treatment in the jail, and letting them know that that exists now. So I think that's coming up in May. I'm not sure which judges are going to be present there, but.
I think that if they can make that big, they need to make another, because they need to be aware of this. How are you going to be referring prisoners or if they're not prisoners yet? How are you going to be referring them if you don't know what's available, what's out there? So if they don't attend that meeting, then what happens?
Well, I would imagine that they would get a guidebook, and we would, coordinate with their staff to provide additional information.
And if I could add, Judge Kenny and Judge Edwards are pretty good about getting information out to the bench, including using the state court administrator, Paul Paruk, who not only deal with the circuit court, but also the district courts in Wayne County as well. Because certainly the 36th District Court is probably one of our most active, and we probably get probably 75% of the people that come to the jail come from Detroit and the 36th District Court.
I think your point is a great point. I think we need to put a team together to be able to go out and facilitate these meetings.
Then have a sign-in sheet.
Right.
And for those who are not there that time, then they need to make another. But it ought to be something that is required. My speech for today.
I agree.
Any other questions or concerns or? Let's see what is next here. Have to vote on something today?
Yes.
Put on the budget.
Yeah, you have to vote on moving this forward.
Are we ready for that now? So review the plan. Now, I guess we need to make a.
Yes.
Okay. I have a, and you're gonna.
Oh, okay, it goes, okay.
Then it goes to. We'll do that. Okay. Brought it to our attention that the committee doesn't meet until, yeah. But we
First time.
can go to the director, take it directly to the chair for
Yeah.
exigent approval because of the seriousness of this situation. All right, so can I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Okay, do I have a support?
Second.
Okay, been properly moved and supported. Are there questions on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The motion carries. Okay, so you got
Thank
what you
you.
need. Yeah. I didn't realize it either.
We'll do it. I have confidence.
Well, what we'll do, but we do it if there's emergencies like this, we just take it right to the chair for exigent approval. So your total budget is 2.572?
That's correct.
Requesting. Do you have any idea whether or not you're gonna get that that
No, I
amount?
hope we get it because I did a lot of restructuring this year, so I'm hoping we get it.
Right. Okay, you think you can convince them that you're gonna utilize it?
Yes. My hope. That's my hope. We're getting rid of the delays.
Okay. All right. Okay, so Madam Clerk,
Item F, such other matters as may be properly submitted before the board.
I just want to welcome our new member, our new board member to this meeting. And what you want to just introduce yourself just briefly again, so for the ones who didn't hear it prior.
Certainly. Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. My name is Armand Harris. I own Jabs Gym in Eastern Market for the past 6 years. I'm also one of the board of directors for Eastern Market Corporation, former Wayne State University Warrior, where I study finance and play football, and excited to be here and effectively partner community with some amazing programs and get people reacclimated to society. So.
Okay. That's it for me. Oh, I was going to ask you for future meetings.
Yes.
What are we planning on doing? Was this very hard for you coming here? Was this very difficult?
No, but we have free parking in Hamtramck.
Yeah.
Where did you say?
Jail Division 3 in Hamtramck.
Well, you didn't offer.
Well,
Well,
I'm offering.
Well, that's fine.
I think this is an outstanding building.
You love it?
I love it. It's beautiful.
I think it's an awesome building as well. I also would love to, we have tons of buildings at Eastern Market where I would love to have some meetings over there if we could. I'll be, open to sponsoring it and making it cool for everybody to get over to Eastern Market.
Open up the Department of Corrections probation office so that we can take the time to be able to see where our population comes on a frequent basis and also receive services. So open opportunity as well for invitation.
All right, so we had a hard time finding a place. That's why we ended up having it here. Because, if you have other places you'd like to have it, that'd be fine. Or if push comes to shove, you can always have it here. That might not be a bad idea. We get a chance to see a lot of stuff.
Madam Chairman, maybe
You
we
get some kielbasa and sauerkraut.
maybe we send out a list of each meeting and then we can all volunteer to essentially sponsor or connect.
Yes, to host.
To host
the next
a
meeting.
different location.
That's a very good idea.
Yes. I'll be sure we get some lamb chops from Wolverine Packing.
Whoa.
We gotta get over there.
I think we should go to Eastern Market first.
I agree. Okay, so we got that issue resolved. So you'll be working to set those meetings up, right?
Yes, I will get a list of the dates.
Lamb chops sound pretty good though, doesn't it? Yeah. Okay, so with that concluded, we will now move to public comments. Is there anyone from the public who would like to make a comment at this time? If you're on Zoom, if you're on phone, or if do we have any emails, Madam Clerk?
No emails have been received.
Okay, so if you're on Zoom or email or Zoom or to telephone, is there anyone that would like to make a comment this time? You have a flyer on that, that you do? Would you please send me one and then I can post it on the community postings? Have my email address? Please send that to me and then I will certainly post that in on the Facebook pages of our communities, the community associations, neighborhood associations, Facebook page. Okay. Okay. Are there any other comments at this time? Any other comments from the public?
I more so have a question one more time. Is there any digital assets for these programs that could be used that we could put on social media to get the word out for programs that Department of Correction has going on? digital assets such as, social media marketing, video, flyers maybe. I think a lot of the people that we're looking for are available on social media. Yeah.
And we could put things out on social media if you send things to us. We could send them, put it up on Facebook, the commission page.
Who's that talking?
Oh, that's me.
Who's that?
Wayne Peel. How are you, Madam Chair?
Oh, hi, how are you? Who was that again?
What,
Oh, Wayne Peel. Oh, he's our PR person. Okay, Wayne, what did you say again, Wayne?
you could put it on, we could link things to Facebook and whatnot. And if they have information they could send over to us, you could put it up there on social media. We have we have the commission YouTube channel. We could link through that as well.
Wayne, give them your contact information, please.
Sure.
Wayne Peel, P-E-A-L.
Yeah, I'll
Okay.
I'll send a message with my email.
Okay. He's with PR? Yeah, he's with our PR office. Okay, all right. Thank you, Wayne. I'm glad you were listening and that you chimed in and gave us that nice piece of information. Okay, so we are now done with public comments. So we'll now move to the next item, Madam Clerk.
Adjournment.
I have a motion.
So move. I make a motion that we adjourn meeting.
All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Motion carries. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for being here. We were